All right, so we have a special guest here today. A Hope County native, one of my mentors, like a father figure to me. Welcome, Coach Maurice Huey from Douglasburg High School, the head varsity football coach, a jack of all trades, master of them all too. We thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate it. He looking at you.
Hey.
All right, I'm Zoe.
It's deep. It's deep.
I'm Lawrence.
All right, I'm Raekwon.
All right, Coach. So, what do you think culture is? What is football culture to you?
Football culture to me is it's bigger than football. You guys know because I've coached you guys when you was in school, and if I didn't coach you, I tried to convince you to play. But it's life skills really. Trying to be able to handle tough situations. Winning comes out of that as well, but the main thing is being able to handle situations that are tough for most people. Football prepares you for life. When times are hard, you think about the things that you had to go through, whether it was summer workouts, camp, during a game, tough situations, and how you persevered through it. And with culture, it's giving you that mindset of I can handle any type of situation. I can be a man in my house and still handle other things outside of that. So to me, culture is really contagious. But you got to have that mindset of being willing to change the culture that you've been a part of. And that's one thing that we're doing at Douglasburg as far as changing the mindset of the kids so they'll have that winning culture on and off the field.
Okay, so now how do you build it? How do you get the kids in that? How do you build it in?
How do you get the culture?
By setting examples. The coaching staff that I have, the people that I have come in, they have different backgrounds, but we all have the same similar stories. And what I mean by that is, you know, with me being raised by my mom and my grandma and not having a father figure, there's a lot of kids that are in that same boat. Not having that male figure in their life, we have a lot of kids in that same boat. So what we try to do is we try to convince them or try to get them to change their mindset and get that culture changed by telling them our stories about the things that we had to deal with, how we handled it, how we didn't handle it, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So they'll be able to open up to us and be able to understand and be able to come to us and be able to talk about some of their situations and their problems as well.
What is your biggest fear as being a coach to the youth?
Losing a kid. That is the biggest. That is the biggest hurdle. Is pouring into a kid, loving that kid, doing everything you can to be a father figure or mentor to that kid if something happens outside of your watch. And that's the biggest fear is losing a kid. I've been doing this now, 20 years, and I've lost 5. And you still think about those 5, even though you got tens of thousands that are still walking, you know, breathing, contacting you, texting you, IG, Twitter, Facebook, phone calls, text messages, or whatever, but you still think about those that are no longer here. And you always wonder if you could have did something differently, a conversation, or if we could have got this kid in this school, would this have happened? So that's the biggest fear.
You're a Hope County native, so what was it like growing up in Hope County? What did you play sports?
Hope County was different than what it is now. Hope County was real different. I mean, what I mean by that is, we rode our bikes everywhere, we walked, we stayed outside all day, playing football, basketball, baseball, kettlebell football, you name it, we did it. Your grandmas and your mamas weren't gonna let you run in and out of the house to drink water, so you was drinking out of the water spigot, or the hose pipe. So it was different. We literally grew up together, and what I mean by that is we literally did everything together. I lived in Clay Hill, so we would ride our bikes from Clay Hill to I forgot the name of it now. It used to be 801 housing. We used to ride our bikes there and play basketball. We used to ride our bikes here. The East Hope, play baseball. We did it. We all did it together. And we was a close, tight-knit group. Football was huge. Rayford shut down to watch us play. Win, lose, or draw. Everybody and their mama was there. The hangout spot at the time used to be the Burger King, and then we wound up getting the McDonald's with the car wash right beside it. So, you know, those were the spots because we didn't know how to act because we had a McDonald's now. You couldn't tell us nothing, but it was close knit. We was always together. We always backed one another. It was fun, man. I mean, we made hope what hope was. I mean, I know people talk about school now and it's being bored and it's this and it's that, but it's always about what you make of it. And we enjoyed our time.
What do you think the surge of military kids coming in does for Hope?
It helps and it hurts. It helps because, of course, anytime you got military kids and military families moving in, it benefits as far as
It's money in the farm.
money.
Yeah.
And it helps the county, it helps the school system as far as money and funding to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
But it hurts because you'll get that kid here for 3-4 years, and the next thing you know, their parents PCS out, and you know that connection that you had with that kid is gone. Now, granted, we had, of course, we had 801 housing here, so we had that situation, but it wasn't as bad. Once they got to high school, 9 times out of 10, they stayed here and graduated.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, shoot, them jokers be here, they ain't gone tomorrow. So it kind of helps and it hurts, especially with the friendships and the relationships that you get. And as a coach, it kind of juggles a lot of stuff because you anticipate having somebody and the next thing you know, they're gone. So it helps and it hurts. Oof.
So your coach tree, coaches that you've been under is magnificent. Magnificent. Who do you think you learned the most from?
I can answer that for him. Go ahead.
Man, it's tough because of course the coaches I work for Milton Butts, I work for George Corthrop, I work for Julian Brown because he was the interim coach for a year at Westover. I work for Ernest King at Smith. I work for Trey Sasser at St. Paul's. I work for Chris Metzger. I would say I learned a little bit from all of them, what to do, what not to do, to try to make myself a better version of me. But I think the two most important guys that I learned a lot from was Milton Butts and Chris Metzger. Coach Butts was a stickler for perfection. He didn't care what time it was. We're gonna get these plays done.
Yeah.
He didn't care if we had lights or not. We was gonna get these plays done right. And these are exactly how we're gonna run these plays on Friday nights or Thursday nights. Time was not an essence, Coach Butts. It wasn't, but it paid off on the football field.
It did.
And then, of course, going to Pinecrest, learning a different way to do stuff with Chris Metzger was a blessing to me because I was able to learn it a different way. And everything was timed. Everything. So, for example, with us at Pinecrest, Monday and Tuesday, we practiced for 2 hours on the dot. We practiced from 5:50 to 7:50. 7:50, we were walking off the field, going to take showers, getting ready for classes. On Wednesdays,
Morning?
yeah, we did morning practice. So a typical day at Pinecrest, which it took me some time to get, used to or whatever, but I loved it once I got used to it. So us as coaches, we had to be there about 4:50 because we had our meetings at 5 o'clock. So we would have our meeting, we would do devotion and everything. We would talk about our practice plan, what we was doing, how we was doing it. By 5:15, kids started rolling in. Kids was on the field stretching. We tried to get the kids out by 5:30, 5:45, so we could get started at 5:50. First whistle blew at 5:50, and we was on the clock. After that, we had 24 periods, 5 minutes a period, pouring sign, we're going to the next station, going to the next thing as far as our practice plan was concerned. On Wednesdays, we had this thing called the Hour of Power. We practiced for 1 hour. That was it, 1 hour. And on Thursdays, our walkthrough was probably 45 minutes. So you calculate all that, you're talking about 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. We might have practiced 6 hours a week in preparations for a game. And you're talking about support as far as the kids being there on time, ready to roll. Because you gotta think about it. When school was out at 3:30, you were done. You could go to tutoring if you needed to. You can go support other sports that played at school, whether it was soccer or volleyball. Or if you had a job, you could actually go to work. Of course, you couldn't work on Thursday or Fridays or Saturday mornings, but it was, man, I loved it. Granted, I had to go to sleep early at night to make sure that I was ready to roll, but it was a blessing for me because at that time when I was at Pinecrest, my wife was pregnant with our third child. So I was able to go to all of her doctor appointments. I actually watched 99.95% of her games that she coached volleyball for Hope. So it was a blessing because, of course, third child, our last child, I was there for everything. So it was cool. But learning a different way of doing stuff with Coach Metzger, I think really helped me with what I'm dealing with now at Bird.
So how were y'all able to get the kids there at 5? Was it just all parents, or did y'all have
kids carpooled and it was parents? So it was an expectation that this is what we're going to do. And if you're going to be a part of this, you're going to do it. It was an expectation, and everybody bought into the expectation. But of course, that goes into the mindset change. You gotta embed winning into that change. And believe it or not, it benefited because a lot of the guys that we had that wound up going to college to play ball, they went to morning practices anyway, so they was used to it. They was accustomed to it. Versus going to another school and they practice afternoon and evening. Now you gotta get that kid to adjust the mornings, so it really benefited. It really benefited. I enjoyed it.
So how did y'all do, because we're in North Carolina, we have, our weather is crazy.
You ain't have to worry about weather in the mornings. I think about it. 5 o'clock in the morning, you ain't gotta worry about humidity. You ain't gotta worry about big breeze.
Games?
Adjusting the games, what we did on Wednesdays, we actually did that in the afternoon. So we would do that after school in the afternoon. So we would go from basically 4 to 5. And from 4 to 5 is probably most of the times like the hottest part of the early part of the summer, early part of the season for football. So if they can handle that 4 to 5, they can handle 7:30 on Friday night.
Some cooled off.
Right.
You're not touching the field every minute of the game anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And Saturdays.
So Saturdays, what we did on Saturdays, we had to be there by 7. So we would break down film, do our grades, and then also start doing the game plan for the next opponent. Kids would come in around 10 to get treatment and to watch film. And we were done at 12. We were gone at 12, and we did not come back to Pinecrest until Monday morning.
Now, with that type ship that Metzger ran, because that's a well-oiled machine, how did it affect your coaching at other places that were not as well transitioned as Metzger and Pinecrest?
I had to adjust once I left Pinecrest. I was spoiled, and it wasn't spoiled in the sense of being able to do what you want to and all that other stuff. I was spoiled in the sense of my body and my mind had already been programmed and trained. Hey, you practice in the mornings. Hey, when the bell rings, you go home, spend time with your family. So I had to retrain myself once I left, which is funny because I left and came back home for the second time. And I had to adjust, and that was a huge adjustment for me because my wife and my kids was accustomed to seeing me. And then with that change, they saw me less, even though I was at home. So it was a big adjustment. Big adjustment.
So how'd you get started? You said you've been coach for 20 years. What was your first start?
So my first job, teaching wise, I was at Island Drive Middle School, which is interesting because that's in Douglasburg District, and it is now called Douglasburg North Middle School.
Okay.
How ironic.
So in 2003, when I graduated from Fayetteville State, I had a bachelor's. Of course, best school in. I'll leave that alone. So I graduated with a sociology degree. Didn't know what I was gonna do with it. And I went to the job fair and they was like, hey, you can teach. I was like, oh, okay. You can teach EC, and I didn't know what EC was. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll be able to teach. I knew in order to teach, I could coach. So at Island Drive Middle School, I was an EC resource and co-op teacher, and I was coaching baseball at Westover. And it's funny because I actually started coaching before I graduated. So my last semester at Fayetteville State, I was actually the JV baseball coach at Westover. So after classes, I was going to baseball practice, getting the guys ready for baseball games and everything else. So my plan was to get a job at Westover, but it didn't work out, so I wound up going to Island Drive. So that was year one. Then year two, I realized that middle school wasn't for me. And I commend you, Raekwon. I commend you, Lorenzo. Middle school wasn't for me, so I knew high school had to be it. So I actually went to Southview that next year, and it's funny because I was the first responder / assistant coach at Southview football, and I was also still the JV baseball coach at Westover, and I was the 9th grade girls basketball coach at Southview. So, and during that same time, my wife was pregnant with Janai. So that was interesting.
You're going a few different things.
Coach Richard Bailey told me, he said, if you can coach middle school football, you can coach anything, anywhere, at any level. If you can coach middle school.
If you can coach females, you can coach anything. No pun intended. But I actually started coaching Parks and Rec here, actually, Parks and Rec basketball. And then I did a little football. I never wanted to do baseball. Never wanted to do baseball. But Coach Bailey, right. If you can coach middle school, you can pretty much coach anything. If you got an eye for talent down at the middle school level, you're pretty much a pretty decent coach, especially if you can put them in the right positions to be successful.
So after your first start, when did you get to Westover? As working at Westover, coaching at Westover football.
So I finally got to Westover fall of 2005. Fall of 2005. So year one, I was at Island Drive. Year two, I was at Southview, which Bob Barnes, by the way, was my principal. Shout out to Coach Barnes, Mr. Barnes, Mr. B, loved him to death. So that's when I finally got to Westover. So once I got to Westover, George Coulter was the football coach.
And that's your second year coaching football?
That was,
high school?
Yeah, second year. And George Coulter was the head coach, and I just helped out with the offensive line and defensive line that year. So then the next year, Coach Brown was the interim coach. So when Coach Brown was the interim coach, it's funny, Coach Covington, Mr. Covington, was the JVDC. I was the JVOC.
Wow.
And then of course, you know, we helped out as far as with the varsity, because I helped out with it's funny because I helped out with the tight ends and the linebackers. And so that was our role that year. And then Coach Butts came the following year, and that's when all of a sudden our roles flipped, where Covington was solely offense and I was solely defense.
Do you think that worked out better for you?
I do. I still think I can put 35 points up on anybody offensively. But I think it benefits me more because I know how to stop people too. I think with Coach Butts coming in, it made me more of a real well-rounded football coach, because now I know offense and defense. I can I can put points on the board, but I can also stop you from scoring. So I thought it really fitted me. But I think it really took flight when we left Westover. So when we left Westover, which leaving Westover, it was tough because Westover was like home to me. They embraced me. They embraced my wife because my wife also was there, and she helped out with volleyball. She helped out with cheerleading. So Westover was home. But when Coach Butts came here, I was like, man, I'm going home. I'm able to go home. I'm able to go back and help the kids that, you know, I felt needed help. But then when we got here, Coach Butts called me in his office. He was like, hey, I need you to be my JV head football coach. And I was reluctant to do it at first because I'm like, man, I've been doing varsity all this time. Now I got to go down. And he's like, no, I need somebody down there, you know, that knows what I want, knows the system that I can trust. And I was like, Coach, I got you. So it was funny because once we got down, of course, I knew his offense. I knew the defense. Who called the offense? I did. Who called the defense? I did. Granted, I had assistants, but I really knew what we needed, how we needed it, why we needed it. And it's funny because it wound up benefiting us a couple of years later.
In your words, hey, we gonna do this here. Hey, we gonna do this here.
So, what would you say your biggest transition was from Westover going to Hope to help out there, as far as coaching the kids there?
The biggest transition was knowing that everybody knew me. See, at Westover, you know, I'm a coach, and I got to get to know the parents, and I got to get to know the kids. Coming back home, I pretty much knew everybody. Yeah. I knew their moms, I knew their dads. I probably went to school with their uncles or whatever. So it was different because I got to put this hat on of the coach, not necessarily the friend, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when things aren't going the right way, I got to talk to them like, hey, this is what's going on. We need to figure something out to keep him from getting in trouble versus, hey man, stay out of trouble. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, we had a few of those.
Yeah. So, you know, at Westover and at the other schools, it was easier because a lot of people really didn't know me versus coming back home, it's like, oh, you homegrown, you know how it is here, cut me some slack, and I can't because nobody cut me slack when I was here. Yeah. So that was kind of the biggest thing.
And the point of the matter is, you're gonna leave here one day, and nobody's gonna cut you some slack when you leave.
Right.
So at Hope County High School, y'all had one of the biggest games ever. Y'all beat Richmond for the first time in
ever
history.
It was wow.
And
history, you know,
so not only do y'all beat Richmond, you get hurt. You get injured.
Let's clarify. What year did they beat Richmond?
2011.
Okay, just had to make sure.
2011. I'll never forget it because I had surgery in 2011.
What's going on? The first time y'all beat Richmond, you are injured. Not hurt, but you're injured.
Nah, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. Feel my leg every day about that one. I'm hurt. That week was
the campus was
crazy.
different.
Oh, it was crazy.
It was crazy.
The campus was different.
It was. I've never, and like I said, I've been doing this for a while. I've coached at Southview. We played for the state championship against Charlotte Independence, and they had Joe Cox and Muhammad Massaquoi that wound up going to Georgia and wound up going to the league.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And there was buzz there, but the buzz at Hope that week was just like none other.
That can't be duplicated ever.
We really walked around the campus of Hope like, yeah, we're going to win. Mm-hmm. Like I've never been a part of that before. And of course that game was huge because Richmond was coming in undefeated.
Yep.
We was going in with one loss, and everybody was like, well, y'all really didn't play nobody, you know, this, that, and the other. And shoot, the guys just had a chip on their shoulder like, hey man, we can beat now. And that week of practice was different. Like, there was no yelling. There was no fussing.
Oh, it was crisp.
Like, everything was crisp. Everything was smooth. We put new stuff in as far as install, and it was like working like none other. The actual play that actually got us to win with Jamie Nicholson. You know, we had tried to run that play several times and he wouldn't catch it, and all of a sudden he catches it and breaks free, and it's like, man. So that week was just totally different. And then of course before the game, we had a downpour rain, like a storm came in, because you know Richmond travels and they do tailgating wherever they go. And Richmond started showing up at like 4:30. So of course we in the field.
Man, Richmond was on campus at 2 o'clock.
I
see them green flags come flying over the road.
So they got the grills smoking and everything. So we're in the field house trying to get the guys, you know, motivated and everything, which we really did not have to do too much of nothing to get them hyped for that game. And around 6:30, like the bottom fell out. And we're just sitting there like, man, we're going to have to postpone this game. And Coach Buzz is like, no, we're not. We're going to play this game tonight. I don't care if we play this game at midnight. We're going to play this game tonight. So we're just sitting there like, man. So it finally cleared up, and we wound up, I think the game started like 8. It started late. And it was, like I said, man, it's just like yesterday, just thinking about it and talking about it, man. And so once the game ended, we won, and everybody's celebrating, and of course the field was wet and everything else. And Keith Jackson, I love you, Keith. Keith Jackson, I'll never forget. And he's like, Maurice, we won. I was like, yeah, we won. And I was just standing there, and Keith jumped on me on my side, and I heard my knee pop. I was like, oh. He's like, you good? I was like, no. And I looked down, and my knee really, like, it instantly swelled up like a balloon. So I actually saw a video of us shaking hands, and you could see me limping going across. And I shook Coach Williams' hand, which was my coach when I was at Hope playing, and he's still coaching at Richmond to this day. And he gave me a hug and told me he loved me and congratulations. And I had to get on the gator to ride back to the field house. And I was in there, and Miss Schmidt was like, what happened? And I told her. She looked at me like, nah, that didn't happen. I'm like, no, it did. And so she was like, well, go home, this, that, and the other, and see how it works in the morning. I couldn't sleep that night. Woke up that morning, it was bigger. Went to the orthopedic. They did the MRI.
Keith, dude.
I mean, he just jumped. He just jumped on my side, and of course the field was wet and soggy and everything else, so my knee just gave. So I found out that Sunday that I tore my ACL, and I was like, wow. and you know, my wife was picking at me, my mama was picking at me. We was laughing because my grandma was like, well, you done played all these sports, and I also you get hurt. And it's like,
Yeah, can't get
this is
hurt
crazy. Like, I played football, baseball, I played basketball, ran track. I ain't never got hurt. Tore my ACL, coach.
And then not to mention all the stuff you did in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I tore my ACL.
You
So.
should.
Yeah.
Supposed to get hurt when I'm younger. Now I'm older.
Yeah.
So, tore my ACL. Wound up having to have surgery 2 weeks later. Coach Butts laughed at me. The coaching staff laughed at me. I was like, man, I'm laughing too. But if I see Keith, me and him will fight. And so we wound up. Dave got hurt that season. Marquise Ferguson called Kool-Aid. He got hurt against Lumberton, fell on his head. We thought he had a neck injury. We wound up losing 6 straight because we actually started off 6-0.
Yep.
And we wound up losing out, but every team in our conference made the playoffs that year. And we wound up going into the first round of the playoffs. We played Butler. And everybody was like, man, y'all gonna get the dog beat out of y'all. And we actually had that game close until the fourth quarter. We wound up losing by 14. And but that year really kick-started the next year too. Because of course, I think about it, that JV team I had, we lost 3 games. We went 6-3. And we lost to Pinecrest, Richmond, and Scotland. And all of those games was close. So you're talking about that group of kids wound up going up to varsity, and that was when we wound up having that 10-3 season, losing to Jack Britt in the second round.
Whew.
We ain't even gonna talk about because
That
I'ma
was,
say
that
it
was
like
the year
this.
Jack Brett went to the state playoffs and lost.
they went to the state championship
State
and lost.
championships and lost, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because everybody said that whoever won between
let's
Hope
leave that
and Brett.
alone.
Yeah, we
All
can-
I'm gonna do is
yeah,
this.
yeah,
It was there.
yeah, we all know about that.
It was there. It was there.
I know some of those. I know some of those kids. Well, they're grown now, but I know some of those kids that played and they
They say the same
say the
thing.
same thing.
Keon Young says the same thing.
Keon, I won't gonna say your name. Won't gonna say your name, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So after Hope County, you go. Where do you go?
the first time.
The first time. Yep.
So after Hope, Coach Buzz retired, and job came open, and we applied, and we interviewed,
We
and,
feel the pain too.
and
Yeah.
Really edit some of this shit right here.
I know. And applied and interviewed, and we didn't get the job, and so I knew I still wanted to coach, and I knew I needed to find somewhere else to coach. So I had three options. My three options were to go to St. Paul's, ironically to go to Byrd, or to go to Smith. If I'd have went to St. Paul's, I would have been the running backs coach. If I'd have went to Byrd, it would have been something defensively. But if I go to Smith, I'd have wound up linebackers in DC. So that was going into my son's senior year. Yeah, Lorenzo, Raekwon, yeah, I know.
Hey man. Let
So
it go, man.
We gonna let that go.
so I let him make the decision because I knew that was going to initially affect him. So I sat down with him and I told him the options. I said, which one you want to go to? I said, I'm going to suck up this year. This year is going to be about you. And he wanted to go to Smith. So we went to Smith. I was the linebackers coach in the DC. I wound up being the assistant basketball coach for varsity, which ironically, my principal, Mr. Kenneth Williams, was the head basketball coach. And then I was the head baseball
Wow,
coach.
that's cool. That's a full circle right there.
Hang on. Your principal was what?
My principal now was the head basketball coach
Oh,
at
That's,
Smith.
that's a full circle
That's
moment.
crazy.
So, I sit back and I look at stuff and I'm like, man, God, you really funny. Cause
Yeah,
you
no,
Amen.
yeah.
Amen.
twisted some stuff around. So that's why we went to Smith. I'll never forget I had a conversation with Lorenzo in my room, B53 in the Balkan building.
Little ball.
They were
Yeah,
all
I
they were
having
all
a
the time.
conversation with you.
First
So,
period.
so I knew where I was going. I knew I had already made my decision, and we was in the room, and he was like, "Coach, you decided where you going?" I was like, "Yep."
And
He was like,
meanwhile,
"Where you
I asked you
you're,
that for 2 weeks.
you're still making film.
I'm
You're
still-
still making highlight tapes.
Yeah,
Talking.
so
Yeah.
so even though I knew I wasn't gonna be back at Hope, I was still making highlight films for the seniors that was on the team, and we were still sending stuff out to colleges to try to get them in school, which we wound up having a pretty decent group sign on signing day for that group before we left. And Lorenzo was like, "So where you going?" I was like, "Man, I'm not gonna tell you." Lorenzo kept
2 weeks straight.
He kept like pushing that
2 weeks
it's like
straight.
that sore you got.
Yeah.
Felt like
and you
more than
keep
2
picking-
weeks.
Keep picking it to make sure it's
you
still
keep
sore.
picking. So
Yeah.
I got pissed off at him, and
You actually kicked me out the
so
room
I
for that, bro.
actually went to Max Preps and I just showed him the schedule, and he sat back. He said, "Oh, so you going to Smith?" And I was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Why?" And I circled the game.
I was pissed. I was pissed.
Turkey bowl.
It was a turkey bowl.
Oh man, hey man,
Man.
come on, man.
That was probably
That game was pretty.
arguably the most petty-est that I had ever been in my life when it comes to coaching. And it had nothing to do with you guys.
My
It
knee
was
still hurts from that.
I'm gonna tell you, the only reason I know that happened was because of your wife. Like, literally, Miss Huey was my teacher. So she was my English teacher for like two out of the 4 years I was at Hope. With that, Miss Huey, when I walked out the classroom to go get a drink of water, I seen Miss Huey in the hallway talking to another teacher. And she looked at me, she said, "Lawrence, don't you play football?" No, not this year. she said, did you play last year? Yes, Miss Huey, I played last year. She said, you gonna play next year? I don't know about all that. She said, why not? I said, I don't know. I don't know where Miss Huey gonna be at. She said, Jabari ain't gonna be here.
That was rather an eventful game, to say the least.
As soon as she said Jabari ain't gonna be here, I was like, I don't think
I
I'm gonna be
remember
here.
That was a eventful game.
Cocaine White.
So Coach King, my guy. So it was funny because our starting quarterback wound up getting hurt against Terry Sanford first game of the season. Severely sprained his ankle in the first quarter. So it was kind of fitting that Javarian wound up going in. Javarian threw for 3 touchdowns. We came back and won. And of course, E. Smith, Terry Sanford is always a rivalry game. And so he wound up getting play of the game.
First 2 schools in Cumberland County.
Right.
The white school, the black school.
Right.
Yep.
So he wound up getting play of the game, and it was cool because his picture was plastered all over the paper. First official day of practice, and of course y'all saw it because I posted it everywhere. And so he played that game. He wound up going 3-1 in the starts that he had. We brung our starter back the Pine Forest game the week before the Hope game, and so we was going into the Hope game, and Coach King was talking to me. He's like, "Huey, you going back home?" I said, "Yep." He said, "What you think?" I was like, "Oh, we gonna win."
No doubt about it, huh?
What you want the boys to wear? I said, "Oh, we're gonna wear cocaine. We're wearing all white." He said, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah, the boys gonna wear all white. We gonna spray paint their cleats gold to match the helmets." He said, "We gonna go out there." And he's like, "All right." So, of course, the boys wanted to wear all white anyway. So I got there early because he let me drive my truck, and got a chance to see y'all. Talk to y'all a little bit, and it was borderline disrespectful because the coaches were trying to warm y'all up, and y'all like, "Man, forget y'all, Coach Huey here." So y'all was like, I was literally at the 50-yard line watching, and all of y'all was gravitating to me, no pass, Jacob Russell not playing. I was like, yes.
It's the funniest thing
No
ever.
lies whatsoever.
So I'm like,
funniest thing.
I'm like, man, y'all supposed to be over there. Man, I don't care, man. We just happy to see you. I'm like, these jokers right here is really about to make this thing look real bad. So the guys got there.
Look bad.
Look bad.
It was already
bad.
What you?
It was really bad because I had an E. Smith shirt on.
I didn't
You
even.
did.
It was bad.
I gave it
All
to
that
you.
year, and that was bad.
It was bad.
I gave it to you. And it was crazy because there's a handful of times that I've been on the visiting side at Hope, and all of those times I was on the visiting side at Hope, I won. And it's no disrespect, none whatsoever, but it always feels weird. Because at practice, and I don't know if y'all paid attention to it the first time I was there, I always sat on the visitor side during practice just to get away. And it's, I don't know, I would go to the home side, but I'll always gravitate to the visitor side and just sit there and just watch practice and stuff. And sometimes y'all walk up to me like, "Coach, why you over here?" I'm like, "Hey man, I'm good, just looking at stuff, figuring stuff out." But it was weird because coming back that time was gratifying to me as a coach because of what was said to me. And
Leave that alone.
And it was gratifying because everything that was said to me, I proved them wrong. But I know it wasn't me. I know it was the man upstairs to help. But it benefited. And just standing on the sideline watching the kids that I formerly coached, like Antonio Peterkin. Antonio Peterkin played football because we had a camp. And at the camp, he came. And when he came to the camp, I didn't know that Sheriff Peterkin was his dad. So I was talking to him. He's like, "Yeah, I'm in Hope County, this, that." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "I coach at Hope County." He's like, "For real?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You might know my dad." I was like, "Who your dad?" He told me his dad. Next thing you know, he walked up. I was like, I didn't know you had a son. So we started talking.
You might know my name.
And then, you know, he was at the early college. He's like, man, they won't let us play at the early college, this, that, and the other. And I never forget Sheriff Peake said, don't worry about it. We'll make that change. And after that, the kids from the early college could play. And Antonio was one of the first kids to be a part of that. So I kind of, you know, it felt bad coaching against him because I know I was a part of helping him play.
Oh, they say that to this day.
You know, I was a part of helping him play. It was leaving a place and then going back and coaching against the kids. It hurts because you don't want nothing to be personal because you don't want the kids to think that you did it because of them. You did it because, you know, for one, you're trying to elevate yourself. You're trying to put yourself in the best situation possible to become a head coach at some point in time in your career. So that's why I always told you guys, like, man, it's not personal while I'm leaving. It's I gotta put myself in a better position.
Yourself, your family,
and I gotta make sure my family is straight.
Yeah,
you know? So it was never a personal issue for leaving. It was always to try to elevate myself and my family and put them in a better situation.
One more thing that we always forget as us as being men: mental headspace.
Oh yeah,
mental headspace.
I have more peace of mind now than I've ever had in the last couple of years of coaching. In order to be a great head coach, you gotta be a great assistant.
Yeah.
And I always pride myself on doing what my head coaches want me to do and what they need me to do. And I always told my head coaches, if I overstep, let me know and I'll back. You know, I don't want to do something that you don't want me to do. And that's something that you guys can take and learn as well. But I always try to make sure that I took care of my head coaches to the point where they didn't have to worry about, did Huey do this? They already know it's done. And being in the situation that I'm in now, as far as the headspace I'm in, I know everybody think, man, being a head coach is stressful, is this, is that. Yeah and no. But with the experiences that I've had with Coach Butts and Coach King and Coach Sasser and all the coaches that I work with, I was able to put something in place to benefit not only me, but my coaches and my family. You know, so once football season is over, I don't do anything football until when it's almost spring. So whenever our last game is, whether it's the first week of November, December state championship, whenever, after we do inventory, after we do our exit meetings, I don't do anything football. The only thing I might do football related is, of course, still send film out, talking to recruits that's coming in, those type things. But as far as X's and O's, huddle, you can go on my huddle now and you see 0 hours of film being watched because I cut it off. Like, that time is spent with the family. We take our vacation during Christmas because, of course, during the summertime, we came with my wife coaching volleyball, me doing football. So every Christmas, we always go to the beach. We're gone for a week. We don't do nothing sports related. Once we make sure that we make that time, we isolate that time. Like with our summer workouts, we go Monday through Thursday. We may go to a camp on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday is normally that time with the family. And I learned that with Coach Butts and with Coach Metzger because you don't want to overwork yourself and burn yourself out before the season starts.
Yep.
So you think about it, we're doing spring ball now. We're doing 2 days a week until May. And then once May hits, we're doing those first 2 weeks of May, we're doing those 10 days. But then once that's done, we shutting down for 2 weeks because it's final exams, and then we're going into summer. But we always make sure we give those kids the time, and we make sure we give ourselves that time too. Cause
what do you think is the biggest lesson you had to learn on you becoming a man and a family man at that?
Being able to juggle coaching and family. when you're a young, energetic coach, you're trying to prove something. You're trying to prove to your head coach, you're trying to prove to other people that you are capable of doing what they have hired you to do. And a lot of that time, football is gonna be here. You know, we know how to manage it, we can take care of it, but you need to take care of your family first.
You were a defensive coordinator. Who was the hardest hitting kid you ever seen do?
That's tough too.
So in East Columbus, you had the opportunity.
No. This is a football question.
That's hard. He's had a lot.
That's the point.
He's had a lot.
And
That's
those
tough.
eyes have seen a lot of athletes.
The hardest hit that I've seen as a defensive coordinator, rest in peace, was Kenneth Newsom at Westover. He's a linebacker. We played, ironically, Hope County. And he hit, God, what was his name? Oh my God, nope, not gonna say his name. But he hit him so hard, his helmet went farther than the football. And that was the last game that he played.
Yeah, most
He
definitely.
wound up playing basketball.
Yep.
That was the hardest hit that I've ever seen in my life. That was, hands down. Hands down. Now, I've seen some, Christian Russell has laid the wood on some people. Kamani Jones has laid some wood on some people. Alex Plummer with one shoulder has laid some wood on some people. Josh Harrison, Kareem Butler. The list goes on and on. Lorenzo Williams, he was my first Division I guy. He played outside linebacker for me at Westover. He wound up going to Virginia Tech. He played outside linebacker. He wound up getting his scholarship by shutting down Dwayne Allen from Terry Sanford. Dwayne Allen had 1 catch, 1 touchdown, 5 yards.
Wonderful name, by the way. Wonderful name.
So that was probably, arguably, in my time, at that particular moment in my career, I was like, man, that was a feather in my cap right there. And then, of course, it's been flourishing ever since. Because I've had a linebacker.
Your cap is huge.
I've had a linebacker make all conference, if not all conference, second team everywhere I've been. I've had a defensive player, if not win defensive player of the year in the conference, was in the top running for it for the most part everywhere I was as a coordinator. So, yeah, I know offense, but shoot, man. Ain't nothing like seeing somebody lay wood on somebody.
So East Columbus, you get the opportunity to be a head coach and an AD. How was that experience?
Different. Because, and I don't want this to sound weird, but you always deal with, it's always the principal, the AD, and the head football coach. That is normally your triangle as far as communication, athletic administration, setup, you know, ordering stuff, requesting stuff. And I was 2 of the 3. So it was definitely different going in. I'm sitting down with the principal, like, hey, Dr. A, we need this. Okay. I'm sitting down having a meeting with you. Yeah, okay. Why you talking to me about it? Just order it. Because you're the principal. He's like, you're the AD too. So it took a while for me to understand, like, hey, all I got to do is go to the bookkeeper and just let him know, hey, this is what I. So
You're meeting with yourself.
Right. I'm like, self, huh? I want what it is, you know. So that was combination of that and actually being the administrator over all sports. That was cool, and it was kind of challenging because, of course, I had never done it before. So it was an adjustment. You know, I have always helped other people in certain situations, but it was different. I learned a lot, which prepared me for where I'm at now. But it was fun. It was challenging because, of course, I was in a place nobody knew me, and I was able to bring in one person, which is Tim Ray, which is now the head football coach at Red Springs, which was the head football coach at Goldsboro, which was on my coaching staff, so he's on my coaching tree. But it was challenging because I had some challenges at East Columbus. and to handle it and to do the things that we did at East, it benefited us as we moved on in our coaching career. But if I turn back time and see if I would do it all over again, I still would. Still would.
So you had the opportunity to come back to Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And how was that experience there? You had the opportunity to come back to Hope where you coached the Josh Harrelson, the Kareem Butler, the Alex Plummer. How was that experience?
Year one was challenging.
What was that, 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2018.
I got back March of 2018. It was challenging, and because Hope wasn't the same Hope that I left.
Oh yeah, completely different.
It was totally different. Kids was totally different. Mindset was totally different. Culture was totally different. So it was kind of like restarting everything. And it was kind of like starting over.
Yeah.
It was, that first year was tough because you were dealing with some seniors that
Are used to the
They
are
were
used
set in
to,
ways.
they were set in their ways,
Yeah, used to losing.
and they were set in their ways, and
And used to losing.
you was trying to change a culture and change a mindset, and it was tough. Like, I love Alex, but me and Alex butted heads a lot of times, and we're still cool to this day. But I think he understands more now than he did when he understood more at the tail end of the season more than he did at the
Oh, most
beginning.
definitely. That's how it happens.
And with him understanding, it kick-started year two, as far as with Josh and Kareem, especially with Kareem and Marquise Woodson and those guys, those juniors about to be seniors. It really kick-started them because they understood the growing pains that me and Alex had, and it benefited them in year two as far as the success we had on the field. And I truly think if we didn't have COVID, I really think year three would have been
Yeah. A whole lot
even better.
Yeah.
But with COVID and shutting down everything and people not knowing what's gonna happen, I think that it really took a toll on everybody, and it really hurt that senior class, which was Josh and KB and those guys. I think any other year would have been totally different, but it really sucked for them in that particular year.
That's for the class of 2020.
Yeah.
So for your second year back, y'all go to the playoffs, and I had the opportunity to be on that staff as what was I? Statistician.
The stats guy.
Stat guy. Yeah, stat guy. But how did it feel? Both of the times that you were at Hope County High School, you went to playoffs. That's one stat that you do have. You went to playoffs each and every time that you were at Hope County High School.
At least to the second round.
At least the second round.
The first time we went, with my first go around, that was gratifying because of course we had beat Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
The second time we went, of course we had the home playoff game against Pinecrest, which by the way, Detrez Newsom almost killed that boy. Hey, think about his. That's one of my top five.
I was there like, I
one of
know
my
about it,
top
I know
five.
about it, but
And what position was Detroit? I remember
He was a safety. He was a safety.
because the whole crowd went.
Hey,
Say-
boom. Whenever they call for the bump,
Yeah.
go ahead,
And-
D-Trash.
He moved that boy like 10 yards.
So with that, anytime we called Buck, D-Trez came in. So that was like third down situations. He would come in and play safety or corner. And we knew he was the roll down safety, and he was gonna come down and lay the wood. And
Man, that gap was
that
He was throwing
It
the
was
shoulder.
that and the hole was big, and the kid hit the hole, and D-Trez hit him. And so
The whole crowd felt that hit.
So-
The whole crowd.
Hope County built different.
So of course, going to the second round that year, we thought we really had a good chance of going farther. Was gratifying, but I think coming back and going to the second round, that second go around, was more gratifying because nobody expected it. With us having a home playoff game against Millbrook, we beat Millbrook. before that, we beat Pinecrest pretty handily on senior night, and having the opportunity to go to Leesville Road and play them, which eventually played for the state championship, which is ironic because I've been a part of two teams that wound up losing to the eventual Eastern Regional runner-up. You know, so
Who did Leeds lose to you?
they were called Vance at the time, but they Chalmers now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are gratifying.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are the real, really cool. But you still sit back and like, man, you could have did something a little different to try to get over the hump to that next round, though.
Hey, if it's not meant in that moment, you gotta wait your turn.
Right.
That's all. So now, what is the hardest thing that you had to do coaching?
Head coach, assistant coach, or
All together.
Coaching.
relieving coaches of their duties.
I thought that'd be the most inspirational moment.
Nah, cause it's hard because when you
Firing the wrong way.
when you bring people in, you're bringing people in because you feel like they have the same vision as you, and they have the same work ethic as you. And once you get into a season and you get into, the fire and then bullets start flying and you realize that they don't, and you're trying to help them and give them opportunities to help themselves and they don't, you got to make that grown man decision. So as a head coach, the hardest thing to do is to relieve a coach of their duties and, let them know, because granted they have a relationship with the kids too, whether it's good or bad, and you got to be the one to let them know like, hey, we appreciate it, but we're going in a different direction. And I always hated that, when I was interviewing for head jobs, they say they're going in a different direction. Like, what direction is that?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So I try to be, you try to be as politically correct as possible, but I think that's the hardest thing. Combination of that and kicking a kid off a team because of discipline or issues, those are the two hardest things as a coach that you have to do, because especially when you're getting rid of the kids, you just hope that doesn't tip that kid over to be go worse. You hope that motivates that kid to come back and do something better. But
and that's always a 50-50. To me, that's a 50-50 gamble.
Yeah.
But if you're a cancer to a program,
You got to get rid of them.
you got to.
They got to go.
Yeah.
They got to go. Because if not, they ain't going to do nothing. Because if not, they're going to mess around and relieve you of your duties, and you're going to be looking for a job somewhere else. So I got to get you before you get me.
Exactly. So what is the difference between Bird as a head coach and Hoke as an associate head coach?
I was an assistant. I was not an associate.
My bad. Assistant.
To be honest with you, nothing. Numbers. Of course, Hoke has about 2,500 kids. Bird has a little over 1,100. That's the only difference. Kids are the exact same. Granted, they feel like they're city kids at Bird because they live in the city, but they have the same issues and same problems as the kids at Hope. They're the exact same. It's really no difference. We still deal with the same issues as far as, kids not doing what they're supposed to do, having issues at home. There's no difference really. Just the colors and how far I drive to work. That's the only difference really.
If you had the opportunity to coach for a college or play for a college, who would it be?
Hey man, my playing days are over, so
Okay,
that
coach.
knee
Coach.
Hey man, this knee is perfect. Now the other knee now is a little shaky. Surgically repaired is good.
Or if you had to go back in time, who would you play for or who would you coach for right now? Especially with NIL and everything like that, who would you want it to be?
I got like a top three.
Give me that top three.
Mac Brown. Mac Brown is Mac Brown.
Okay, Mac Brown.
Yeah.
One.
That's one. Definitely would love to coach with him, coach for him, work, play, whatever. Another one that I would love to, if I could, would have been Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Mastermind.
Yep.
The mastermind, as far especially defensively, like he is like a guru. And the other one might surprise you, Coach Prime. Dion.
I'm
That ain't
not
surprising.
That's not a surprise.
I want to go to prom now. Coach Prime, where you at? You want dogs, right?
Theme
Coach
music.
Prime. Which the kids swear up and down that they compare me to him all the time.
And I can see that. I was gonna say you remind me of Deion Sanders.
They
I can see
compare me to
that.
him all the time.
Yeah.
Because we play music all the time. We, try to get them pumped up, excited. Weight room, same thing. We play music at practice.
Oh, you're a lot nicer now. Okay.
You gotta go to a practice.
Well,
These kids are different.
I remember specifically.
Well,
They're
They're
different.
over the years, after you coach where I've coached and been at different places, you kind of learn some things. And I actually, believe it or not, I learned that from Coach Metzger. Coach Metzger actually had a DJ come to practice one day and just play music, and I was like, "Man, that's pretty neat."
What?
I was like, "That's pretty neat."
Coach Buzz would have never.
And he was like,
Kids are different.
"Yeah."
So you got to have different methods. You got to.
So we play music like that all the time at practice, pregame, and all that good stuff. So, you try to get them, and then of course going to different schools. Went to Carolina a couple of weeks ago. Went to NC State, and those jokers playing music and everything too. So kind of getting the kids prepared for what they want to do in college at the next level. So. I kind of mellowed a little bit.
I was about to say, I definitely remember they cussed out a lot and doing bear crawls.
Oh, no, that's just you. That's just you.
I have.
Changed.
Yeah.
I'm nicer, but we still do it.
That's just you.
We actually roll now. Rolling is different.
Oh.
Yes. It requires a full body.
Yeah,
I had
really
kids
roll.
right here throwing up.
So you have all your stuff on you. You just
Log
roll.
roll.
Log roll.
Yeah.
Log
That's real different.
I'm glad I'm grown now.
They be like, "Coach, I'd rather run." Nah.
Yep. My toughest player just started crying, throwing up. We long rolled the whole field back at 110 yards. He got back to, he's like, he just started
I won't do
crying.
that ever again.
He started crying, and he threw up instantly. I said, "Oh yeah." So y'all want to roll? Okay.
Y'all had us log rolling back then.
Nah, nigga.
No, we did
y'all
bear
crawls.
crawls.
Y'all did bear crawls.
Hey, people were crying with that
Hey,
too.
I got down on them kids.
That's because we
and
had
I
to do
long rolled
the
myself.
perimeter of the
Yeah,
field.
y'all did
We
the
had
perimeter
of
of
the
the
field.
Y'all didn't do.
We went around the
Yeah,
Y'all went around the
field.
And then if you mess up, you gotta
messed up,
start
you had to start
over.
over.
Yeah.
And you couldn't cut the corners because we had a coach at each corner.
Y'all had a coach, y'all had a cone.
That field was like
But-
2 miles long.
We had to start at least twice.
He had focus on log rolls, and that's different. I got down there with my kids with log rollers, man.
Log rolling changes your life.
It
man.
does. You get it just
Does.
gives
Crawling
you're
changes
using
your
your
life.
whole-
You're using everything.
Everything.
Using everything.
You using your teeth to all.
I would never log roll.
Yeah,
That's
I
not
did about
happening.
15 yards. I said, let me get my.
I remember when varsity messed up and they made every team do the same
Oh, yeah.
exercises
Most
as
definitely.
varsity.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
And I'm sitting there on the side like,
I understand
why I
that.
gotta do this?
I
I'm
understand
confused.
that
Yeah, you
completely.
got to.
Understand.
Same program.
Yeah. So this year, you have the opportunity to come back again to Hope as on the business side. How excited are you for that?
Mixed emotions, to be honest with you.
And you wanna knock somebody's teeth out.
And nah, it's the reason.
You be quiet.
Or the reason being with the mixed emotions, it'll be my daughter's senior year.
Ooh.
So,
So is that the main reason why you wanted to get this
to
game?
be perfectly honest with you, tell the world, the sole purpose of me getting the Hope game, so I get to see Janiyah cheer basically once a year. And at one time is always during our bye week and they're playing 71st. And technically I'm there for two reasons. One, to scout 71st, and two, to watch her. And I've done that the last 2 years. So we needed a week 3 for football. And I actually went to my former principal at the time, my AD, and I said, hey, I'm gonna reach out to Hope County and see if we can play them. And they was like, why? I said, well, for one, it'd be a great gate because, of course, I'm a Hope alum. Coach Small's a Hope alum. A lot of people are definitely gonna come to that game. I said, two, both of the bands are high-stepping bands. I said in 3, I'll get to watch my daughter. So I reached out, talked to Coach Brigman to see if they had any openings, and initially they didn't because their schedule was full, but then he turned around and reached back out to me. And he was like, you know, where do you want to play? Y'all want to come here? You want to go there? And I said, I want to come there. So year 1, we're coming here. So it's going to be mixed emotions. A lot of people think I just put the game on the schedule for personal reasons, but really, the personal reason was for my daughter, to be honest with you. So I have that opportunity before the game to hug my daughter, kiss my daughter, take a picture in the middle of the field. That's kind of gonna make her day a little bit too. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, my wife makes sure that she supports her, because when I took the job, we talked about where was she gonna be at, and I told her that she needed to be there to support Janiyah with cheering. So my wife gets to see me coach this game too, so that's beneficial, because normally she gets to see the last game of the season, because Hope doesn't have a game that last game, because that's their bye week. So she normally misses all the games except for 71st. So this year we actually be able to be a part of both. But on the flip side, it is exciting to come back home. It's gonna be exciting to be across the field with, it's a couple of kids that's still on that team that I coached. It's gonna be interesting. Looking forward to it, excited about it. A lot of people have reached out and talked to me and texted me and told me some stuff, and you know, it's gonna be interesting.
That goes with territory.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited about it. Excited to come back home and show everybody what we've done at Bird and what we're capable of doing. Of course, we're going into year 3. Year 1, we went 1-9. Won homecoming for the first time. I think it was the first time in like 7 years. First conference win in a while. And then this past year, we should have won 5. We won 3. Missed the playoffs by a game. So we're really looking forward to this upcoming season.
You missed the playoffs by 1 game.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, y'all didn't have a JV team the season before.
Year 1, we didn't have a JV team. So the COVID year, Bird had 15 kids that played football. So year 1, the goal was to increase the numbers on the program. So we started the year with 45. We finished with 41. So going into year 2, the goal was to have a JV program. So we had a JV program that played a conference schedule this past year. We didn't win, but they played every game.
That's all that matters.
We got better every week. And you're talking about a group of kids that would have either A, got cut, or B, standing on the sideline on varsity on Friday nights not playing. They played every Thursday night. So that benefited us. They loved it, enjoyed it, got better. So that benefited us. So now we're talking about going into year 3 with them being able to play a full JV schedule along with varsity. And those 9th graders that normally wouldn't get to play, they're going to be 10th graders and already got, you know, game experience. So we're really excited about what's going on this year. We've had a slew of kids transfer in via certain situations as far as family and all that other stuff, and we're excited about what's going to happen this upcoming season. Looking forward to spring ball that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we're really excited, man. Really excited. Like I said, coming back home is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
So one thing I do want to do is we got to put in a Give Flowers part segment. You do a lot. You've done a lot. And one thing coaching wise, you got these kids from the summer to almost Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Sun up, sundown.
Exactly. And
Technically, I have them longer than that because they play baseball too.
yeah. But you are dealing with whatever problems they got going home, girlfriend, they done did something to them. There's nothing but problems, and they're kids. So especially now with social media as well. You deal with that, and you do a wonderful job. You get kids into school. You work.
You working 6 jobs.
You work very hard getting kids into school. How do you do it?
I didn't want. So coaching, or playing, and being a part of Hope County was different when I was in school versus how it is now, and I just wanted to be the opposite of what I had. You know, nowadays you normally have coaches that all they focus on is the big name kids. My thing is, I want, if Lawrence was still playing football when I was at Hope, Lawrence, what you want to do? Oh, I want to go to school. Well, we're gonna figure out a way to get you in school. You know, if going to school, going to the next level of playing is what you want to do, who am I to say that you can't do it? You know, my thing is to put your film out there. All it takes is one school to give you that opportunity. Trey Page, prime example. Trey Page was slow as molasses. Trey Page, I owe you $5 still too. Because I bet at Trey Page when we played Pernell Sweat that he couldn't score a touchdown. And I called a toss sweep and he scored. And I won $5.
Hurdle.
Yes. And Trey wound up having an opportunity to play at Methodist. Now, you know, who would have thought Trey Page would have been able to go play college ball when he was running a 10 flat 40? You know,
I did not know it was that slow.
but no, I'm just playing. But what I'm saying is, you know, who am I to tell him no, you can't do it? So, you know, every time I have that opportunity, I always try to put forth, you know, that opportunity to the kids. Like, hey, you know, it's different, shoot, than when y'all was in school. Like, they got so many different avenues and opportunities to go to school now till it's not even funny.
Yeah.
You got these different JUCOs, you got NAIA, you got Division 3, you got Division 2, you got Division 1. You got online school where you can turn around and still play, and you know, it's crazy. So who am I to be the one to deny you that opportunity? You know, I'm gonna put your name out there, put you in front of the coaches. It's up to the coaches to say yeah and nay. You know, I mean, that's the same thing. When I wanted Hope, I got kids in school when I wanted Hope. I was doing highlight films for kids when I wanted Hope. You know, and my thing is, if I can do anything to help them to get in, that's what I want to do. And I have a great rapport with a lot of kids that I've never coached. I've never coached like Nakeem Shaw. I've never coached Nakeem, but I did his highlight film to help him get in school. Desjuan Campbell, never coached him, but I did his highlight film. Brandon Smith, be smooth. I did his film, of course, and his film caught wildfire from everybody. He wound up having a great career at Fellow State. Even yeah. Oh, you talking about you talking about shoot. We just talked about 32 with Trust. Talking about dang, what's the boy name?
I was talking about Brandon.
That was Brandon.
Well, that
But
Brandon,
he also had it too.
Yeah.
That's Traquan.
Traquan Covington.
Yeah.
You know, Traquan
Trey
Covington.
32.
Yeah.
My cousin, yeah.
Trying to get him in school. Did what I could for him, and then he turned around, and even now with what's the name that said Shaw? Kareem. What number is he? 32.
32.
So, you know.
Oh, that goes around.
Yeah. So, you know, the thing is just trying to do what's right for the kids. Even when I went to Bird, they had 2 kids that played in that COVID season. I helped them get in school. They went to St. Aug.
So, kids that you didn't coach,
Yeah.
that was there before you even got there,
Yeah.
you helped get them into school.
Yeah.
And you got them in school.
Yeah.
Man.
We definitely missed that.
What is
Man.
What is it like for you when kids come up and tell you thank you? Like, how does that make you feel as a coach?
It lets me know that I did my job. It lets me know that I did what I was supposed to do, for that particular kid. You know, it's in this profession, you ain't even got to say thank you.
Okay.
Having a signing day with kids up there signing, and having graduations where those kids are walking across the stage graduating, that's the thank you right there.
Definitely.
Yes.
Having the opportunities, like even with me right now sitting here talking to you guys, seeing how successful you guys are, in the professions that you're in, that's thank you. You know, sitting here talking to Raekwon and Raekwon talking about being the principal one day, like, you know, that's big. You know, the stuff that you're doing with your shirts, and then you talking about doing 7-on-7s and all that stuff. That stuff is big, man. You know, and I don't never say that I took credit in it, but I know there's been a conversation or two that probably geared you towards what you're doing now. So, you know, regardless to how you get to where you're trying to get to, as long as you get there, you know, that's my thing. You know, I had a time frame as far as being a head coach. I knew if I wasn't a head coach by a certain age, I was gonna go into administration. Because you can be a career assistant, and that wind up hurting you in the long run. But if your mind is not set on at one point in time or one day being a head coach and trying to run your own program, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times, especially with me, I try to hire guys that have that mindset of, I want to be a head coach. I'm going to do what I need to do to be a head coach. Because if they're going to do what they need to do to be a head coach, they're going to bust their tail and they're going to work hard. And they're going to give everything they got to the kids. You know, so that's the big thing, man. I'm giving y'all flowers, man. I appreciate you guys having me on here. Because, you know, everybody has a story, man. Everybody has a story to tell, and everybody has, you know, issues. Like with me, I was raised by my mom and my grandma. My dad lives in Rayford. He lives right down the road, and he's been there forever. And my dad really hasn't been in my life. And that could have easily derailed me and had me go do something else. But, you know, I still had men in my life that poured into me, coaches, really coaches that poured into me, and I still talk to them, a lot of them to this day. So, you know, it doesn't matter how your home life is, and everybody says that, you know, your home life dictates your future and all that. Nah, that's not true. That's not true. So, you know, Rayford is always home, but of course, you know, on week 3. It's, you know, when that whistle blows, it's hope against Bird. But then when that whistle blows and the game's over, hey man, I gotta console my kids or congratulate my kids or whatever. And then after I take them back to Bird, then I cross back the line and come back home. You know, so it is what it is. It is what it is.
So in this our favorite part, the quick pick. In the quick pick section, you had the opportunity with music and everything. You've been in an era that is just fantastic, 90s wise. So who would your top 5 artists be that you would listen to? Top 5.
Let's give him a genre.
Okay.
He's gonna work his brain.
Maybe.
Let's do
Tupac
R&B.
and
Let's do-
Biggie is automatic.
Let's do hip hop first, then we do R&B.
Yes, hip hop.
Tupac, Biggie, automatic. 1A, 1B, not in that order.
Yeah, no order.
Not in that order. Shoot, even back then, LL Cool J,
I thought that was coming.
NWA,
Straight out of Compton.
Yeah.
Straight out of Compton.
I want to listen to that all the way home.
Snoop, Dr. Dre, like that. It was nothing to hear some of that in the locker room before games back when we were playing. Busta Rhymes was big back then. Yeah, those 5 right there, you probably would have heard at some point in time.
So what about now, in the locker room now? What are you hearing in the locker room now?
Oh my God.
I would have asked that. I would have left that alone.
Man,
How do you feel?
Not a week.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Little baby.
I'm gonna be honest with you. After them listening to what I listened to when I played, they listen to a lot of what I listen to. Man.
Okay.
It changes their life forever.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you
Real
know,
rap
lifting
right
weights. You know, because I'm in the weight room now and TPE
Congrats.
now.
Congrats.
TPE now. So in the weight room, and they like,
The best
wait
spot.
a minute.
The best spot.
I-
Oh no,
no.
doing nothing.
That is.
Weightlifting has changed since when we were in school.
Weightlifting.
Yeah.
He said the P part.
Oh, he's in the weightlifting.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm doing weightlifting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weightlifting has
But
changed
it's
since
still
we
physical
were.
education.
No,
So,
it's different.
It's different.
It's
For
different.
P, you can do nothing.
Hey, hold,
Hey,
man.
man, I'm not getting into that.
Hey, this is about him. This is about him.
High school.
So,
This is about him.
so when we lifting, they was like, "Hey, coach, play your playlist." So I played mine, and like now they starting to gravitate to a lot of the stuff that I listen to. Like, it's crazy because I listen to Little John and the East Side Boys, Chrome Juice album every game day.
Wow.
Matter of fact, I was bumping that on the way in here for this, and every game day, 1 through 5, got to play those 1 through 5, and you know that's just me. And then of course my all-time favorite, which my friend, band director at Hope, played for me defensively all the time. Was never scared, and of course. The way it was set up, and Raekwon, you shaking your head, but it's true. The way it was set up the second time I was back, anytime they played Never Scared, they knew something was about to happen big defense. And being in the box at those 3 years sucked.
Of course.
Oh,
I hated it.
besides year 2.
I hated it. But it benefited because, of course, being in the box and where Pickett is set up at, we could make eye contact visually. And it's crazy because I know I should have broke that plexiglass several times. I'm up there banging it and beating it and everything else.
Shout out to Brady.
And he looked at me and I'm like, yeah, play it. And then once he played it, like the whole stadium just, oh my God, it's just, so, like the kids are starting to, it's funny because the kids are really starting to be like you guys were. Like the stuff that I did, they're starting to do. They're starting to talk like me. They're starting to act like me. They're starting to like their reflection of football is starting to reflect me. And when that happened at Hoke, going into year 2, it's when we was really good defensively, which was the same way when we went 10-2 and lost the 10-3. And we're starting to get that same thing at Bird, man. We're gonna be all right.
Now I got a question for you guys. Favorite Coach Huey moment?
Woo. Woo. Man.
I say after the
Most of them almost have an off football field.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying
Doesn't matter.
I'm saying after the Ashley game.
Favorite Coach
y'all out
Huey
here worried
moment
about
with
looking
you. With you.
Y'all worried about looking pretty. You go put them big white shirts back on.
And we'll start with Mr. Verified himself.
Man, it's too many, man.
Favorite one.
Favorite one? All right, we're going to go back. I remember being at home, leaving 8th grade, not knowing much about freshman workouts. Well, varsity workouts. I remember getting a phone call, sitting in my little rolling chair. Hey, is the parents of Lorenzo Kelly here? Oh, you speaking to him right now? Oh, for real? Hey, where you been at, man? Hey, we're having football workouts now. Actually, matter of fact, we just had it. So we gonna have one tomorrow. Tell your mama, bring you out here. And yeah, you got a physical. I know you already got that. Yeah, so I expect to see you very soon. And then the other one would have to be, man, when the year that you're leaving, you bring your classroom, had that conversation there, and then we go to the war room. Man. And then you tell them, hey man, I'm going here. You broke it down to us. A few of us that was in weightlifting at that time. I forgot all of who. And then coaching wise, it's too many. It's too many.
There's a lot.
It's too many.
There's a lot.
Mr. Butler.
Man, that joker wouldn't play, man.
He didn't play.
Man, I was gonna play for you, but you live.
I said favorite Coach Huey moment.
So for a lot of people don't know this. Me and Huey had like a 2-week beef
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Alright.
We
Yeah.
had a 2-week beef because Huey said something to me, and I said, "Oh, that's why the football team suck." Specifically the defense. He got pissed. He says, "Well, the band sound like ass." So we had a little 2-week beef. That was a top Huey moment.
But he didn't tell you during them 2 weeks we beat the dog piss out of whoever we played.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
we won every competition we went to.
I believe it.
So that was a good moment. Another moment was Huey's classroom was right here. He was in B53. Okay, a couple doors down was Mr. Myers.
No, Myers was next door.
Who was next door? Yeah, that's right.
He was
That's
next door.
right. So he was in B51.
Yeah,
51, yeah.
because they had the odd on
So-
one side and even on the other.
Yep. So Huey came in the classroom, interrupt class like always. Because Myers had this grand idea that he wanted to keep the same kids the entire year that year. So we had Myers for some course he met up in the fall, and then we were going to take AP US History in the spring with him. So it was every day. It was everyday routine.
Yeah.
Myers was going to teach you to bust in and say something stupid.
Yeah.
This particular day, Huey walked in and said, "Y'all know Mr. Myers drive?" We was like, "No, we don't know what he drives." He said, "This 6'3", 320-pound man drove a Mini Cooper."
Two doors.
So that day, Huey said, "Everybody get up. This is Myers' class."
Went on
He
the
said-
field trip. Yeah.
He said, "I want y'all to watch him get in his car." That was the top Huey moment right there. I can go on for days and days and days.
It's too many.
But
to
there was
tell,
some good
man.
moments.
We took him. Matter of fact, he actually he hadn't gotten there yet. He had to go off campus for something, and he had me watch his class until he got there. So I walked in. I never forget it. I said, "Hey, y'all know what he drives?" I was like, "We don't care what he drives." I said, "Hey man, he drives a Mini Coupe, 2-door." They was like, "No, Mr. Myers drives a truck." I said, "Hey, y'all come with me. Where we going?" We're going to the parking lot. So as soon as we walked up, he parked in that very first part in front of the Balkan building. He opened the door and like his whole walked out. And he wasn't looking. So then he turned around, he looked, he was like, "Really? Really? You really brought him out here?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Go ahead and get your leg out." So he grabbed his leg out. He put his leg out and he got out. Now, but he has the F-150 now, by the way.
Great.
Yes.
It
Good.
didn't match. It
Yeah,
didn't match.
at
So
all.
obviously, as I just stated, the Wilmington Ashley game, I don't know what we was doing. It was wet. We was excited about these new jerseys, and we played like shit.
Now let's just be real. Those jerseys were not all bad.
Yeah.
The white records
We
are
know.
not.
We
The
know.
ones that should suck.
The new,
We
well,
know.
they were better than the parachutes that we had.
Yeah.
And the parachutes were Russell. That was Russell.
Yeah.
Well, we put them big
You
white
played
ones back
those.
on the next game. We put the big white ones back on the next
Well, see,
game.
that was y'all fault.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
so he's not telling the whole story.
I ain't finished though.
No, I'm gonna tell this story.
I'll let him do it. I'll let him do it. I didn't do
So
much just yet. So.
we created these compression shirts, these Bucktown Nation compression
yeah.
shirts,
Yeah.
and they were Nike. And we had like the steel. It was like the steel sleeves, but they were 3/4 and they
Yeah.
were black and red. It
Beautiful.
said Bucktown Nation, had
Nice.
a number,
They're nice.
and had a number on the back. And then we had got those tighter fitting white jerseys. And so that's what we busted out in, going to Wilmington Ashley. So we head into Wilmington Ashley, one of the buses break down. So Coach Butts went to the second bus. He picked out the important piece.
Yes, he did.
I need you, and you. Get on this bus. Is the bus coming? We gotta go ahead and go. Huey, I need you to drive. Yes, sir. So I'm driving. Standing room only on the bus. I'm like, "Coach, what about it?" "Hey man, we ain't worried about that. We gotta go eat." So we got to go to Corral. We ate. We're leaving Golden Corral. They're just getting to Golden Corral. And I'm like, "Coach, we gonna wait?" "Nah, we gotta get there." All right. So we get there and we start playing and we fumble the ball. First time, our running back is running down the field by himself and he fumbles
Jesus Christ.
by himself.
Yeah.
That was on there.
No.
That's
I love you.
Yeah.
No.
I'm gonna ask after this.
So then we had 4 fumbles in that half. The score was 7-0.
Was it raining?
The bottom fell out.
Yeah,
at halftime.
it was wet.
It was
It was wet.
Just how I said.
The bottom fell out.
It was wet.
So the bottom fell out. We sitting in the gym. We waiting. They was like, man, we can't finish this game today. We gotta come back tomorrow. So all the boys was talking about was their compression shirts and their jerseys and all this other stuff. And I said some very explicit words. And I said, y'all beep.
And we
All
call it
y'all
earful.
worried about.
We call it earful.
All y'all worried about is looking pretty. We out here getting our tails beat. I said, don't worry.
y'all won't be wearing this
I
tomorrow.
said, don't worry. I said, I got something special for y'all tomorrow.
Big white.
So tomorrow, the next day, we had to be right back at school like 8 o'clock because we had to leave by 10 o'clock because we was playing at 1. I gave them the old gray compression shirts, and they had the parachute jerseys.
Big whites.
And we commenced to getting our tail whooped. We wound up losing by touchdown.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns.
I think it was 2.
2
I
touchdowns.
think it was 2.
And yeah, you continue now.
But for me personally, it was back during JV season after we just played Pinecrest. I think we had just played Pinecrest that year.
Were we home or what?
We were home. It was our last game of the year before we all went up to
Tomorrow when we
varsity.
lost, Marquise Mason going for 2, and all you got to do is fall over the line and we win. This joker tripped over his own feet and fell at the 1.
Oh.
And the
do
game
remember that.
ended just like that.
I do remember that.
The game ended with him right there.
So when I tell him my memory, it's gonna jog something. I already see it coming.
Don't
It's gonna jog
say
something.
nothing.
I have several more, but yeah, that was for me.
All right, so
Parachute jersey.
I can assure you guys once this is over, they're gonna tell me the other ones.
Yeah.
so I got
Over food because I had
Yeah,
an idea.
yeah.
I'm hungry.
I got 3 memories about that.
Okay, limit to 1.5. I gotta edit this video in 2 hours.
All right, so I got
Yeah, we had to.
the big one that got me right. So JV, I'm playing with Derek and we start working out with Detrez Newsom and the rest of them. Right, it was towards the end of the season. I wound up getting pulled off the team because of my mom and my grades. Right, but my grades shoot up in a week.
Yeah.
Right, so
It's in turn to working.
it turned working, right?
Yeah.
It was for science. So I turned my grades in. I go to basketball tryouts
Oh, I let him.
the same week, right?
And you coach this basketball?
No.
We're in playoffs.
We're in
We in
playoffs.
playoffs.
So
Oh, you fucked up.
yeah. So I'm at basketball tryouts, right? Coach Patterson already told me, hey, by the way, you gonna be on the freshman squad. I said, oh, okay, I don't care. We out there running on the track around the football team.
Around football practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Butts is looking.
He looked right at me, right? He was like,
Oh, he knew he missed.
he looked at me. Coach Huey says, what the hell are you doing? Coach, I tried out for the basketball team. You think you gonna make the basketball team?
Especially now, you think you're gonna make the basketball team?
Then this is the icing on the cake. You supposed to be at practice. Where you been at? Coach Huey, my grades, we're gonna talk at the end of this, right?
Oh no, ain't no talking.
So I get done. The rest of the team is walking to the locker room. I'm standing over on the side to have this conversation with Coach Huey. He walks over to me, he says, what you mean your grades wasn't good, but now they good? I said, Coach, I just had some missing assignments and some failed tests. he said, he looked at me, he says, you know you're supposed to be on varsity right now, right? Oh, I didn't know that. You ain't tell me nothing. You ain't say nothing to me. He
You ain't show up.
Your brain's on.
Everybody know where to find me, right? He says,
No.
he says,
This nigga.
you try out for the basketball team, don't worry. Finish your trial. Finish your trial, right? So, I finished the trial. My name is on the list every day for the basketball team up until the last day.
Cut.
I told you that was gonna happen.
I got cut because I skipped football
That was
practice.
a text message.
Yeah.
Probably
So,
a text message. It was probably like, hey,
that-
Kwame, cut
there-
him, walk away.
that was no. He saved it until the last day.
Oh yeah.
Kwame's an asshole.
Yeah, he saved it to the last day.
You know I love you, Coach Patterson, but you.
I showed up to basketball practice ready to play
I
ball.
bet you did.
And he hit me with the, oh yeah, I ain't got enough jerseys for you. I'm sorry. So
And I'm telling you what happened. That was like, hey,
that was him. I knew it was him.
Walk away.
I knew it was him because as soon as I got home, right, they had the award banquet for the football team. Derek got a varsity letter. He already had one.
Oh, of course I had mine.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm not about to ask him for that.
Need I remind you, I had to come back from injury. To
You
work my way
weren't.
back.
You think you were gonna get a varsity
I wasn't
letter?
asking for nothing.
But you, we appreciate having you on. We appreciate you coming by, talking with us with VTP.
And
And
man, we could talk forever.
we could.
really
could. We wish you a very good season.
I'll be there.
Yeah, it's
I'm
gonna be
watching.
hope on-
Bye, y'all.